I don't think in my 6 years of college wrestling, I don't think I ever missed a lift or like woke up late for a lift or like I never missed a lift. My coaches, you could probably ask some of the coaches at ODU, like I was probably annoying them with the amount of times I would ask for just like privates or one-on-ones, but that's what it takes. Like, I think everyone is going to go to the lifts. Everyone's going to go to the study hall hours. Everyone's going to go to the practices, but that's what
Right.
everyone does. And so you're going to do the bare minimum,
Hmm.
then like you can't expect to jump levels. And so I knew that. Like I knew I had to put in more work and it was on me.
The name Killian is tied to Celtic roots, meaning bright headed and little warrior. This name perfectly depicts our next guest, Killian Cardinale. Two time All American at West Virginia, his achievements didn't come without overcoming adversity. He started his college career at Old Dominion before they cut their program. He found a home at West Virginia, but injuries threatened his ability to compete. True to his name, Killian battled like the warrior he is. I'm Kelby Bachman, and this is Let's Talk Wrestling. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee. What's going on? What is that on your shirt or like that hockey jersey?
Oh yeah. So I don't know. This have you ever heard of the TV show Shorzy?
Mm-mm. No.
It's what's it on? Not Adult Swim. I know it's on Hulu. If you've ever heard of the show Letterkenny, it's
Yeah.
by the same, yeah, so it's by the same kind of guys that make that. Essentially, it's kind of
Okay.
like it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
I would describe it as like bro culture humor almost for
Yeah.
a hockey team up in like northern Ontario. Um it's funny. I highly recommend it. But my
Yeah.
fiance got me this I think last year, so bringing it out today.
Nice. That's pretty cool. What's the name of the team there? Like,
Yeah, so it's funny. I think in like the first couple episodes, they were still like the Bulldogs, and then they're looking to get like sponsorships. So then they partnered with like a blueberry farm, and then so they turned into the Blueberry Bulldogs. I don't know if you can see, but he's got a little blueberry in his mouth.
yeah.
And then in the show, everyone just makes fun of them for being a bunch of sissies for like they call them like the fruit punch poodles or the Kiwi Chihuahuas. So yeah, but the Blueberry Bulldogs.
All right. I'll have to watch that. What's it called again? Shorzy?
Shorzy. Yep.
Shorzy. Cool.
I'll follow up. I'll follow up with you and see if you watch it.
Yeah. How many seasons?
Uh,
And how long are the episodes? That's the biggest question.
relatively short. I
Good.
probably
Okay.
20, 30 minutes. I,
Okay.
I
I can
think
do
they
that.
got like three seasons, I think.
Okay. I can do that. That's doable.
There we
When you got
go.
like those 45-minute or 50-minute episodes and they're like 7 seasons long, like that's a commitment. And
Yeah.
I struggle with that. But um anyway. Um so yeah, you're engaged. I was gonna ask because it appears like your wife is or your fiance is a little bit taller than you, right?
Quite a bit.
So you are like the Lucas Bird made it popular, but you were doing it before he was kind of.
Yeah, I think because me and her have been together for like 6 years. I think Lucas, because his I think they're engaged too, but I think his fiance is quite a bit taller. I think she crosses over 6 feet. My
Yeah.
girl's about 5'9". But yeah, she's still tall. So I love seeing Lucas and his girl though. Shout out to my other short kings out there.
Yeah, how'd you pull that one off?
I think so. I've heard this other places, and I think it rings true where like you're gonna make up for something somewhere when you don't have it. And for me, being short, I think I made up for that with just my confidence and my charm and
Yeah.
just my yeah, like my overall aura, I think. Whereas I think if you're above 6 feet and you already have that, like obviously you're a stud. But yeah, so I think that just my charm and my confidence. I feel like I've always, been like that since I was young. Even though I was small, I was very, very loud. My name actually is like an Irish Celtic like origin. And if
Hmm.
you kind of look into the origins of it, it's funny. It translates into like small, bright-headed warrior. And I'm
Really?
short, blonde-headed, and a damn warrior for sure.
Yeah. Really? So Killian means that, or like your whole name means that in Celtic?
Yeah,
Like Killian.
Killian is like if you look it up, there's a couple of
Nice.
translations, but it's like bright-headed warrior, short,
Yeah.
bright-headed, like small, bright-headed warrior.
Yeah. That couldn't be more true. I was watching actually before we hopped on here because I had watched it when it first came out. When you did that video of, hey, I'm at the NCAA's, this is what I got to do to get ready, before
Yeah,
every match. I remember watching that for the first time and going, gee, like that really put it in perspective, like the actual, like you guys are warriors. And we don't see that stuff. So it was cool that you were behind the scenes. I also found it cool that you were the one doing the taping of your feet. Like, what did you learn? How long did it take you to learn that? And why did you feel
yeah.
like you had to do that or what?
So the background of that was so going into the, what was that, the 2022, 2023 season, I
Hmm.
believe. For all of while we were training during the summertime, I had these like toe injuries on both my big toes. It would kind of switch to one, it would go to the other.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. And I kind of just assumed it was turf toe or
Yeah.
like just some kind of thing that just wouldn't go away. And so working with my trainers, trying to do rehab, all this stuff, and eventually took some time off. But for whatever reason, the trainers just couldn't figure out a way to tape it the way I liked it. And
Okay.
I messed around with so many, like, I was looking at crazy, like, what would ballerinas put in their shoes to help with their toes? Like, how do I tape it? What can I put in there? Wear an extra socks, like all this crap. And then I eventually just found out a way to tape it to where I could compete
Hmm.
and wrestle. But then eventually that led into me tearing my ACL because I was overcompensating. And but yeah, it was just the way that I like to tape it, and I just figured out a way to make it super comfortable.
I thought that was
Comfortable.
cool. Yeah, right. Yeah, comfortable in quotes. Yeah. What did you ever find out what it was that was
Yeah.
wrong?
So it was I bel I hope I don't butcher the name, but it was
Mhm.
essentially like a bone marrow edema, which is kind of like I don't think it's to the level of a stress fracture, but it's essentially like heading in that way, like micro essentially like the inside of my bone I believe was like bruised in my toe.
Jeez.
And it could lead to stress fractures, and I had them in both of my big toes. So, and those are kind of important in wrestling.
Do you even remember, can you even think of how that like you even got that in the first place?
um Probably just overtraining and just I think because usually I think it comes from like chronic kind of like over time kind of
Hmm.
injury. So probably just the wear and tear of wrestling if I had to guess. And honestly, like even today they still bother me, which is crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Like on a daily basis, or is it like every once in a while you step wrong or something happens, you jam it, and you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's just like this just like weird kind of, it's not all the time, but I'll just like notice it, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's been like 3 years and they still are giving me trouble. But that's our sport, man.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing was not only did you tape up, first off, how long did it take you? Because that video was sped up a little bit to, I don't know, one and a half times maybe or two times, but The video itself is like 4.5 minutes long, so I'm just curious how long did it actually take you?
Yeah. So pretty much every day, coming into training, I would try to get there at least 30 minutes before. And that wasn't even just to do like to get the stuff put on my body, just like roll out my body, like get all the tape on, go to the training room. And a lot of times it was more than 30 minutes, but that's just what I had to do towards the end of my career to just get ready for practice so I wasn't dragging my feet and like I could show up ready to really just put myself in the best position to wrestle the way I wanted to at practice. And so yeah, I
Sweet.
mean, just getting ready with the taping of my knees, my shoulders, I mean my knee brace, my eventually my tearing my meniscus. It was definitely a process just getting ready. So but yeah, I would always try to come in, 45 minutes before practice and just get in the room, get a little quiet, just get my mind, my body ready to for whatever I was about to put it through that day.
It's pretty remarkable. I mean, at times, did you wonder why you were doing it? Like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
like what am I doing? Like,
Oh, I mean, even when I first got to West Virginia after, during COVID, when they cut the program at ODU and,
mhm,
I got here and I think probably a lot of people felt that at that time, just like isolated, a bit alone, like you can't just get connected to as many people. And especially me going to a completely new school, new team. Like I remember when I first got here, like we had separate practices because everyone couldn't get together. So it's like I'm meeting
mhm.
some guys on the team and I'm not meeting some guys on the team and just getting COVID tests all the time. But then eventually, like that year, the first year I placed, my shoulder was just popping in and out all the time. Um, and so I started to question, like, damn, like, how the hell am I gonna wrestle this year? Like,
Yeah.
is it worth even, like competing still and all these injuries. But and then eventually I tried to wear like a shoulder brace but eventually it worked out. And so yeah, man, I mean, there's so many times where those thoughts come in your mind of like, am I gonna keep going? And I wrestled 6 years in D1. So especially after my fifth year, I was questioning like, do I want to do this again?
Right.
So yeah, a lot of questioning throughout the process for sure.
And what kept you going then? Because like you could have taken the easy way out in quotes, and be like, yeah, I'm done. But you just were like, no, no, I'm just not ready, or what?
Yeah, it's a lot. So I like to tell people this. Do you know who J.R.R. Tolkien is? The guy that wrote like The Hobbit and The Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a movie about his life. If anyone hasn't seen it, they should go watch it. But in that movie, in the beginning, like he grew up with, he had a really hard life, but it was him. I can't remember exactly how many of his buddies. They made like a little like tea club and obviously he was really big into like different mythology and things like that, but there's this
Mhm.
premise in there. It's in like Viking mythology where the warriors, if they die in the wrong way, and the wrong way for them would be any other way besides battle, right? So if you die in your sleep, or if you die peacefully, you're gonna go to a place called it's like hell, and it's ruled by someone called Hellhammer, and it's the opposite of, I think it's like Valhalla, which is like where they want to go.
Mhm.
And that really was the thing, like was one of my, I guess, mantras throughout the year. Anytime it would get hard in practice or really just anywhere, I would think about that of like, ever since I was probably like 12 or 13, like I wanted to be one of the guys on the podium, wrestling on the national stage and just really just being one of the best wrestlers in the country. And I'd already achieved that at that point, but I was really just gonna keep going until like I had to be pulled off on a stretcher or like there was like I physically couldn't go anymore. And so I just was gonna go out the way a warrior would go out. Like I was just gonna go out on that mat and die in battle. Um, but really I think there's so many things I could go into of like what kept me going and why I had so many reasons why and a drive from just like being young. But really I've been using this analogy a lot with what I do now, and everyone everyone that you talk to, they're gonna want to be this like broad samurai sword, right? Like super sharp, strong. It looks freaking sick, right?
Hmm.
But no one wants to go through what it takes to become a broadsword, which is like getting put in the fire, getting beat down by a hammer, putting back
Hmm.
in the fire, and you do that process over and over and over again. And so I just think I knew like why I was here. Like I just had a really strong desire to keep going, and um I just had a purpose of like this is what I'm doing, and no matter what, I'm gonna keep going. And credit to all my coaches. Like I remember when I tore my ACL, like Coach Flynn was so calm, and I was freaking out, and I'm like, why the hell is he so calm right now? Um, but yeah, credit to those guys, just like being calm and just getting me through that season.
Yeah. I bet internally he was probably freaking out, you know?
Oh,
Like
totally, totally.
that's a good analogy though of like, the samurai sword and the process to become a blade like that or a sword like that is pretty excruciating, you know. When did you, because now I see that you're starting to like mentor and you have been for a while. When did you start to figure out like you wanted to do some of that? Mentoring athletes or telling a little bit of your story or trying to help athletes get through some
Yeah.
tough stuff.
Yeah. So since I kind of finished wrestling, I knew that I wanted to kind of towards the end of my undergrad, I knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial wise,
Hmm.
and just have this kind of, because I think wrestlers are built for entrepreneurship and business. Like we do something so hard for so long by ourselves. Like it's just a great kind of very similar. It's just a different kind of arena.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing sales for the past three years, and what I've seen is it's given me like a restart on how to like um become a master again at something. Like and it puts you back into the beginning.
Hmm.
And so I felt like that it, it helped me relate a lot to like athletes that might be in like the position where they're just starting off or things aren't going the way that they want them to. Um and ultimately like it's just about I think giving back to this sport. And then I think especially nowadays, and this is something I'm very passionate about, it's like young men just need to learn how to be men more.
Hmm.
um and I think that with our culture and just like some of the media stuff out there, like we're just not doing what we can for young men, and that's something I'm very passionate about, is just like yeah, kind of making men again a little bit.
Hmm.
um and it's not always, sometimes it's not always what people want to hear or see, but it's like what they kind of need to see. um and so yeah, really just kind of getting into mentoring athletes, doing sales, and trying to get more wrestlers into that world as well. um Really it comes from a place of like it's benefited me so much, and so I want to kind of share that and give back um to maybe some unconventional things people haven't like heard of, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah. And that's been something like as I've grown as a human and as a man, like the things that I was being told when I was younger, like when I was 18, 19, 20, they were tough to hear and I wasn't like wanting to hear them. But now that I'm like 33, I'm like, yeah, a lot of that stuff I was being told ends up being like true and stuff that I probably should have taken to heart at that time, you know? It just took me
Yeah.
however long to finally figure that out, unfortunately, you know. Um when did you so take me back to the beginning a little bit. So you're from Virginia, right?
Hmm. Yeah. So born
Born
in
and born and
Virginia.
raised? Okay.
Yeah, born in Virginia. It's kind of an interesting arc. So I was born in Virginia. We lived there for about 2 years. And then my dad's family, he's actually from like North Jersey. So
Okay.
that's kind of where my wrestling, I think, DNA kind of comes from, is
Mhm.
up in Jersey. So we lived there from till I was almost like 10.
Really?
So I
Okay.
started wrestling in Jersey. That's where I started wrestling. Um and then moved back down to Virginia, and really just think when I was again like 10, and I really started to get serious about wrestling probably around middle school is kind of when I was like, I want to, like, this is what I want to pursue, and stop playing any other sports at that point. And then yeah, from then on was in Virginia.
What other sports were you playing?
Played baseball and football when I was
Okay.
younger.
Yeah.
And then I was big into like skateboarding and longboarding as well, and just being
Nice.
outside and just honestly causing trouble when I was young, if I'm being
Of course.
honest.
Yeah. Yep. Um, I had a mongoose, so me and we had there were a few buddies that just rode our bikes around town, with our pegs on. Sometimes girls were on the back of the pegs, messing around.
Yep.
So I
Oh
get
yeah.
it. Um, so you started to take. Why did you start taking wrestling seriously? Was it just something about it? Did you just like it? Were you good at it right away? Like what? What was it?
I always loved it ever, even when I first
Really?
started. Yeah. It's I don't remember it, but my mom, and I should tell her to send it to me. I have this thing that I wrote, I think it was either in school or something, but I wrote down, and can't remember exactly what I put, but I was like, I really like this sport because it's challenging and hard and it's fun. And I was probably like maybe 6 or 7. Maybe 8. I don't know. I was young though. I was really young. And I think the reason being, like, my dad um just put me around it, went from when I was like, I think I have pictures somewhere too of me being in a singlet, like around when he coached high school, like
Yeah.
just being around it. So he just plopped me around the environment. And so I just grew up around these, cool high school wrestlers, eventually watching college. And so I just developed, yeah, a lot of love and reverence for the sport, and just was completely obsessed. It wasn't something that I don't ever remember, especially from elementary school to high school, ever someone forcing me to go to any practice or to anything. Like,
Wow.
it was all me. I wanted to
Mhm.
go to that stuff. And I think that's the key with really anything. Like, if you want to have success over a long period of time, is it's got to come from you. It can't come
Mhm.
from your parents. It can't come from some outside force of you. And it can, but I just don't know how long that's going to last. And so
Correct.
for me, it was just, yeah, I just truly loved it. And um yeah, just really, like, in high school, I would go to school, I would go to wrestling practice, and then you can ask my mom. As soon as I'd get home, I'd make dinner and I'd be on flow wrestling till I'd go to sleep, watching matches, flow films, like all of it, and just like
Mhm.
absorbing everything about the sport. Um, but yeah, I loved it and I was obsessed.
Yeah. Was there anyone in particular that like when you sat down you typed in their name to watch?
Oh man, yeah. I feel like so many guys, obviously, like, the Jordan
Hmm.
Burroughses, and some guys that just kind of pop into my mind are like Jordan Oliver, Tony
Yeah.
Ramos, Kyle Dake, Kellen Russell.
Any
Um,
international guys? Any, like, did you ever watch overseas like Russians or
so
Iranians?
my club coach actually used to train a little bit at Foxcatcher, and so he would always
Wow. Okay.
talk about Dave Schultz. So I would watch a lot of Dave Schultz too. Um, some of I'm trying to remember their name, not Sadulayev. Oh, I would have to go back, but I'd watch some of the Russian guys, and
Yeah.
really just I used to always watch like the Russian national tournament highlights. I feel like the
Satiev
2011,
maybe?
or yes, it's either. hmm so I'd watch a lot of those like Russian national highlights from like 2011, 2013. Um, Funny enough, I would watch like Mitchell Port here,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he turned into my coach. Always, I love the Edinburgh film there too. So yeah, those are some of the guys that just pop into mind. Oh, and the dude, I watched this so many times. The early 2000s Iowa documentary with like Mike Zadek
Yeah.
and those guys. I was obsessed with that. And I think Cliff Moore,
I
my
was gonna
my
say,
coach here,
yeah.
was in that. Yeah. So I was obsessed with that. I
Yeah.
loved the Iowa guys for sure.
Yeah, it seems like I feel like there's a piece of that that's at West Virginia. When I watch some guys like yourself and now Ty Waters. Um, Obviously there's other guys I can't think of off the top of my head, but there were just Greg Jones. I mean, there was like a piece of that in West Virginia where there were like just some tough SOBs roaming around that West Virginia room.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's awesome to see like them starting off this year really hot and strong.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
like to see that. Ever since I got here, it just feels like the graph has been going up and to the right. And we like graphs that go up and to the right. So
Yes, yes, don't we all? When did you start thinking about college wrestling? It sounds like you kind of thought about it at an earlier age, but I mean, when did it become apparent? Like, all right, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. No one's stopping me.
I don't necessarily want to say this was when I knew I was. So I remember it was either the 2011 or 2013 Nationals was
Yeah,
like one of the first ones I remember like watching the finals with my dad and my family and I just that was super cool to me. And I don't
yeah,
know if it was that moment that I wanted to go wrestle in college, but I went to cadet duels when I was in like eighth grade down in Daytona Beach.
sweet. Okay.
And I just wrestled. I think we might have done. I think I did Greco and freestyle, but I went undefeated in freestyle. And at that point, like I was just kind of starting to learn about like freestyle, Fargo, things like that.
Hmm.
And you know, people were asking me like on the team, like, are you going to Fargo camp? Are you going to Fargo? Things like this. And at that point, I hadn't planned on doing it.
Yeah,
And people were telling me like you're good enough to go do that. And at that point in time, like I didn't know if I was like good at wrestling. I just loved it, right? And I wanted to be
yeah,
the best as possible. But that kind of opened my mind up to like, oh, I think I can compete like not just in my state, but like probably on a bigger national level. And so that kind of I think sparked some like a different drive in me to like want to see what I was capable of.
yeah. Did you ever talk to your dad much about his wrestling career? Because he wrestled at George Mason, correct?
Yeah, so he wrestled for a little bit at Mason. Grew up in New Jersey, and it's funny. Have you heard the club, the Edge? It's a pretty big club out in
Yeah.
New
Okay.
Jersey. So he
Yeah.
was one of like I think where their high school was, it was like one of the first Edge clubs.
Yeah.
And so I always asked him a lot about young when he was young wrestling, especially in high school. But yeah, a little bit about him wrestling in college. He didn't wrestle all the way through college. I think it's like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I know that's something like we've talked about is and maybe that was something that also helped me not quit college wrestling ever was just the regret of, you know, that's something I remember going into my 6 year was like, I don't in a couple years from now want to be like, well, what if I did this last year? Like, what if?
Mhm.
I didn't want that. And and so we definitely talked a little bit about that because I know that he probably has a couple of regrets just with how he finished the college career. But you know, he was really good in those first couple years. I remember he told me he beat a couple like All Americans his freshman year in college, and so he was a stud. Yeah.
Yeah. Did did he ever bring it up or like how did you find out? Because sometimes what I hear is that parents and coaches they kind of keep that under wraps, like they don't really broadcast their careers unless they're kind of prodded or people come up to him and be like, "Hey, I looked you up and you were this good," or did you come across like some medals or brackets and you're like, "Hey, Dad, were you like kind of good or what?" Like,
Yeah. I think in for some context too, like my grandfather wrestled in, you know, when he was younger,
oh,
and
really?
both
Okay.
of my dad's brothers wrestled. So it was just like I was just around it constantly. And so I
Hmm.
think, yeah, like he just put me around it. So I think I just kind of knew, right? Like I would
Yeah.
go to even when I was probably super young, just be at like his when he was coaching in high school. And so I think I just kind of knew like, okay, my dad is good at wrestling and he's teaching me this stuff. So I think I just kind of figured it out.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
What about your mom? Because I saw this post actually. I don't know if there's any truth to it or if they were just kind of being funny, but
My mom's a dog, yeah.
yeah, they were saying that like a lot of the athletic ability comes from the mom. And so I
Yeah,
was just like,
I mean they made a D1 baby and so and they were both D1 athletes, so it makes
"Oh,
sense.
really? Well,
She played softball at George Mason.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
so she was super athletic too, like, would ski as well and do that kind of stuff. And but yeah, she was a catcher at George Mason.
Dang. That's
So
a
it's in
tough
my
position.
blood.
Yeah. Why didn't you go to George Mason then?
Um, so when I committed to ODU,
Hmm.
that was I don't know, I can't really remember exactly what it was, but it just felt like that was the place for me. I really liked
Yeah.
the team there. Um, you know, the wrestling community can say whatever they want about Steve, but that's my guy. Steve Martin's my guy.
Yeah.
He really developed me technically when I got there. Like I had the work ethic when I first got there, and those coaches down there, Steve Martin, Daryl Thomas, Mike Dixon, Chris McCarty, Lenny Richardson, those guys poured so much into me and really just like made me a technical animal. And so I saw just a lot of it was close to home, right? It was like 3.5 hours,
Okay.
right by the beach, like 20 minutes from the
Ooh.
beach. That used
Okay.
to be awesome. Getting out of a hot summer practice, going straight to the beach, hanging out with the boys.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I just felt like it was a good fit going to ODU. Um, and we just had a good room there too.
Yeah. You you said that you had kind of a moment there where you were wrestling and you were like, okay, I think I'm pretty good at a national level, but what about a Division 1 level? I mean, that's like a whole nother ball game of being good enough to wrestle at that level.
To me, there was no other option.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it from yeah, from that moment, like I I couldn't picture myself doing anything other than Division 1 wrestling. I
Yeah.
mean, seeing those guys on TV and just wanting to be one of those guys, right? I think,
Right.
and that's something you forget, I think, when you get to this level and you kind of are in it for so long that like, dude, these kids that are sticks all the way to high school, like they look at us as these like greater than life things. And it's
Yeah,
not to say that from like an arrogance perspective, because I used to be exactly like that.
for
Like
sure.
you look at these guys like they are um gods among men, which I think on one hand is really good, but then on the other hand is it's kind of what helped me when I was in kind of like halfway through my time at ODU, like something clicked where I was like, oh, that's kind of what's holding me back a little bit too, from jumping levels.
Hmm.
But but yeah, for me it was like I always knew I was gonna go Division 1.
Yeah, I think, um, it's a good point in terms of we only see them as fans. We only see them when they're competing. And so when they're competing, yeah, we think of them as like, oh my gosh, they're gods, right? But we don't see behind the scenes all the work that they're putting in to get there, and then you kind of learn that they're just basically regular people who just work really freaking hard. It's essentially,
Hmm.
I mean, some of it's God-given talent, of course, but like, I mean, you were one of them. You work just outwork more than 99% of the people, and that's why you are where you are.
Yeah, and I think too it's a double-edged sword because I think for a while too it was fueled by just a lot of insufficiency. And I think you'll find that among high performing athletes to where it's not this like obviously we want to be the best that we can, but I think a lot of times that comes from a place of like I'm not good enough, or like no matter what the work that I do, it's like I'm not going to be good enough, right? Um, and eventually I had to kind of like meet that in the middle because at
Right.
a certain point, if you use that for too long, it's going to be maladaptive and you're going to burn out. So I think that can be good fuel for a while, but you do have to kind of figure out other ways to drive yourself and motivate yourself. Because I think a lot of wrestlers and just high level athletes in general, they're just coming from a place of like they are just not good enough.
Yeah. Did you when did you start to tell yourself the opposite of like I am good enough? Because that is a big difference maker, like you're saying. I mean, there's points where you're like I'm not good enough, and like you're saying, you want to achieve something, but then also there's a shift where you got to start telling yourself I can do this. I am good enough. Did you
Yeah.
did you do that or go through that? It sounds like maybe.
Yeah, and it's I don't think it's ever like one kind of thing that clicks, but it's
Yeah.
more of a process that unfolds. But a lot of it, just kind of like your and this is I'm big on questioning your beliefs, right? Like
Right.
you have kind of a computer and your brain's kind of like a computer and you could program this bad boy. But when you're younger, right, you don't really have control of what's going into that program or
Hmm.
yeah, what's going into your programming. And
Hmm.
so I really just started to and I'll use my boy Mikhail McGee for example. Like I had this belief that in order to be a really good wrestler, like you had to, maybe only drink water or like you couldn't have candy or like you had to just be completely like dialed in all these areas. And when I
Hmm.
first got to ODU, like I would see Mikhail, like even in season, like maybe he's eating like an ice cream or something like that, or like
Hmm.
something, that I was considered like bad. And I saw that and he was beating my ass. Um, and I was like, huh, maybe like the stress of me thinking that this is bad versus just having it, like not having that stress, if you kind of see what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
so starting to question some of those beliefs and like also not just work super hard, but work smart as well. But really just kind of clicking like no one around me is any different. Like we're all the same. Like
Right.
we all put our shoes on the same way. It's just about what am I gonna do on the front end and developing my mindset. But really, yeah, it was just kind of this progressive path that unfolded where I realized that, whether it's Spencer Lee or whether it's just someone I've never heard of, like anyone can be beat. We're all human beings. It's just a matter of the work that we put in. Um, and yeah, just questioning some of the things that like I grew up thinking and believing about just the world in general or just wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of new information that you're gathering when you get to a Division 1 program and you're starting to wrestle and you're around these high level guys that kind of, yeah, like you said, do things differently. And you're like, hey, I didn't know you could do that and still be good. Like, yeah. So as you get older, your filter becomes better. As you get more information, you can filter out kind of the stuff that you're like, I don't need
Yeah.
this. I can use this.
And I think too, like I was just such a like just a hard worker. Like I was saying,
Yeah.
I don't think in my 6 years of college wrestling I ever was like I don't think I ever missed a lift or like woke up late for a lift or like I never missed a lift. My coaches, you could probably ask some of the coaches at ODU, like I was probably annoying them with the amount of times I would ask for just like privates or one-on-ones, but that's what it takes. Like I think everyone is going to go to the lifts, everyone's going to go to the study hall hours, everyone's going to go to the practices, but that's what
Right.
everyone does. And so you're going to do the bare minimum,
Hmm.
then like you can't expect to jump levels. And so I knew that, like I knew I had to put in more work and it was on me, right? And that's what I was kind of bringing up before, like it was always my choice. And I think sometimes you see guys that are really good in high school kind of fall off because maybe dad's not, making them go to practice or mom's not making their food anymore, right? And so I think I think that independence like that I just had to really helped me. And I think it
Where did
carries
you?
over into life as well.
Correct. Yes. Where did that independence come from? Like, I mean, I know it's easy to just be like, it was just, I just was like that way. But I mean, I guess if that's the answer, that's the answer. But I mean, where did that come from for you?
Yeah. So I think I think I've always been a kind of a free spirit, and I think that's why I want to be
Hmm.
work for myself and be an entrepreneur.
For sure.
Um, And I also think my parents had me when they were pretty young. I think my mom was like 21, my dad might have been 22.
Hmm.
And so they were kids having a kid.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is something I've learned of, kind of growing up as well. It's like our parents, they do the best job that they can with the information that they have at the time. And
Hmm.
so, were my parents perfect? No, but no parents are. They're
Hmm.
imperfectly perfect. So I think they gave me what they thought was best at the time. And so I had a lot of freedom when I was younger of just being able to like, and I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, especially like I was the classic boy with, ADHD, couldn't sit in his desk. I'm getting, parents or teachers are always calling my parents, we can't control your kid, we can't do this. It's like, yeah, because I probably just shouldn't have been in school, right? Like I was meant to go be playing and doing boy things. But so I always was like pushing the edge when I was younger of like not thinking before I acted, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
feel that.
yeah. And so, and especially like in middle school and high school, they gave me probably more freedom than I should have had. But now looking back on it, man, like I'm so glad that I had that and was able to like fall down myself. And yeah, so I just think it's like sometimes you don't want to be a helicopter parent probably, but you gotta let your kids, I think, f up a little bit and like
Mhm.
discover the world, right? Or otherwise, they're just in a box.
Yeah. Yeah. More like I guess you could say like guardrails, like
Yeah,
stay in this lane here, you can bounce off a little bit, but like let's kind of keep you at least at least somewhat on a
yeah,
path.
bit of
But
controlled chaos.
correct, yeah. Were you a good student? I'm curious like how that kind of played out throughout high school and then as you went into college, like how did academically you
Yeah.
perform?
So it's funny, right? Like if I was to tell you, my GPA and my accolades in college, you thought I was always a good student. So my undergrad, I had I think it was like a 3.7,
Oh, yeah.
3.8 maybe. I was a multiple time like NWCA Scholar All American, I think like 3 to 5 times.
Wow, yeah.
Multiple times I would have 4.0s during the semester. Um, but and then I got in my master's program here at West Virginia, I think I had a 3.9.
Jeez.
Um, but when I was growing up, I mean, I was diagnosed with OCD when I was like 4 years old. They diagnosed me with
4?
ADHD. Yeah, very, very young, 4 or 5, very young.
How
Um,
Sorry, how is that even like how is that even possible? Like you're 4. I mean, or
yeah,
5. Like
but I asked my mom about it quite a bit, especially as I've gotten older. It's like I was doing a lot of these OCD like behavior rituals, locking the doors a bunch, the windows, doing weird things if I would eat certain types of foods, like with my hands, like
okay.
really sensitive, freaky kind of kid.
Okay.
And then I think I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 11 or 12. Um, I had an IEP in high school and
Mhm.
honestly, I think from middle school on. And so no, like from elementary school to high school, I was not a good student. Like school did not make sense to me. Some classes did. Like I
Yeah.
was really good in history. But I enjoyed it. I was
Right.
interested in it. But like put me in math class, oh my God, I hated math. And I think a lot of it was just the way that the school system is, especially, and this kind of goes back to boys. Like I think a lot of our school systems just aren't set up for certain types of boys and men. So yeah, I was not a good student in high school or middle school or elementary school, but I also didn't care. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to wrestle. Like I wanted to wrestle. And so, but then when I got to college, I was like, well, I might want to go to grad school someday, might want to do this.
Really?
Yeah. And so I locked in and when I put my mind to something, I mean, I can get it done.
Hmm.
So and but it was tied to wrestling though at that point. Like it my academics when I got to school was like also tied to wrestling. So it was tied to something I cared about. So maybe that's why I also, you know, did really well. And then I also just kind of figured out like if I'm good at wrestling, I can put my mind to other things and be good at it too. So
Yeah.
in college I was a good student, but the rest of my life, no.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sound surprised when you were talking about how you said you wanted to go to grad school, but
It
I
was
was
very
just
young. Or
yeah,
mhm.
I was just, with how you thought of school, and then when you got to college, you were like, I'm gonna go to. I didn't know how that correlation between like you liking. Did you like school? At least, I mean, it sounds like maybe kind of
I've
sometimes.
always loved learning
Okay.
and getting experience, but just it was just me, man. Like I had so many teachers that was like, and looking back on it, I'm like, a lot of it, I don't want to say I was right, but I'm like, what are we doing here? Like I just couldn't sit down for 8 hours a day in this concrete building listening
Right.
to someone talk. And like, uh, college is a lot different. You have a lot more freedom. But I've always loved learning. I always loved like learning about people, cultures, experiences. And so I think I figured out how to do it when I got to college. And then eventually I like my undergrad was in speech pathology. So that's kind of what I was going toward. And
Hmm.
yeah, I enjoyed learning about that stuff. So I always liked learning. It was just the way it was
That
it
makes
was
sense.
structured through school. I hated it.
Makes perfect sense. When you get to college, you don't have 8 hours of classes right away. You have an hour here, maybe a 2 hour class in a lab or something. Like it's very spread out. It's a few hours a day, and then you got wrestling. Like, yeah, there's not sitting in a class for 8 hours or not 8 hours, and just going from class to class. But yeah,
And you can kind of choose what you want to study and what you're
exactly.
interested in.
Yeah. So speech pathology. Okay. What was your graduate in?
Master's of Business Administration. So towards the end of my undergrad,
Yeah.
um, I don't know, say I'm part conspiracy theorist with some things.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I really just, especially around COVID and just seeing all this stuff with the government and lockdowns, and I'm very big on personal sovereignty, right? That's kind of what this country was founded on, of like, we're going to run things by the people for the people. So I'm very big in like individual sovereignty. And I just really started to get really obsessed with the idea of eventually having some type of freedom in my life, financial freedom, time freedom, and then just wanting to create something of my own eventually to impact and serve the world. And so I really didn't see how that was aligning with speech pathology. I kind of
Yeah.
was starting to get a little disinterested in it. And I figured if I can, the way to potentially having that freedom that I was talking about, probably going to be through some type of entrepreneurial journey. And so I started to just get more interested in like business and learning about creating value essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Sorry, let's tie back to wrestling here. As you're going through your career and you're battling all these injuries, like how did you stay on track academic wise? I know I said we're gonna switch back to wrestling, but kind of like you're going through these injuries, you're hurting almost probably every day, and now you got to go to class, and you are uncertain about your future wrestling wise. Like you're gonna do it, but like at any moment you could just be done because of injuries. Like, how did you balance that? That just seems like that would be very difficult,
Yeah.
to stay on track with school while your wrestling career is somewhat of an unknown, and that's what you love. That's your passion. That's all you've ever done.
Yeah. Something I'm really good at is, I feel like part of it might just be who I am, but it's definitely been developed, is I'm very optimistic a lot of the times.
Okay.
So whatever something happens, like that's outside of your control, it's like you can't control it. So
Mhm.
for me, it's just no matter what happens, I'm gonna figure out a way to make it work. And just very and this sport just does a really good job of making someone, if they want to be like a very emotionally intelligent, calm person, I think, because we fight people every day. And
Yeah.
so the other things in life, like, just aren't as big of a deal. And it's really just priorities though, right? Like I prioritized being a good student, and I prioritized wrestling. I prioritized yeah, really that, like,
Hmm.
wrestling in school. Those 6 years, that's what I did. And a lot of times I think, everyone tries to maybe put their hands in a lot of different, cups or avenues, whatever you call it. But I just had my priorities in order. Like I knew why I was coming, especially coming to West Virginia. Like, that's the first year me and my fiance, but we were, dating at that time. So we had to do long distance while I was here and she was down there. And so if I was coming here, I was coming to get on the podium and I was coming to do what I said I was going to tell these guys. I think a lot of times, whether you're a recruit, a transfer, guys will go into a coach's office and say, "Oh, I want to be an All-American. I want to be a national champion." Da 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 da. Comes back to the broadsword analogy where it's like, "Cool, you say all that, but show me, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I knew why I was coming to ODU and I knew why I was coming here, and so I just had my priorities in order. But I also want to say too, like I was not perfect, right? If you go on my social
Yeah.
media, I'm kind of telling my story a little bit and
Yeah.
had a little bit of a wild side to me as well. But I still, even during that time, like I still had the wrestling and the school in order. And so I think I let loose a little bit until it bit me in the butt some.
Mm-hmm. You know, you know, not comparing, but when you said that, it made me think of Dennis Rodman. If you watch The Last Dance or whatever, like Dennis Rodman was like, Michael Jordan would call him like the ultimate teammate. I mean, if you needed Dennis there, he was there. He outworked you, like he was there. But he also wanted to go out and have a good time as well. Like he needed that release, kind of like he was so focused and hard nosed, nose of the grindstone basketball, but like he also just needed to just get away at times, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot, if you look across the board in athletics, I think a lot of people are like that. Like McGregor comes to mind, or
Yeah.
even in the wrestling community, I won't name names, but it's like you can go, past 10 years and find them, right? Really
Right.
good ones too. So I think it's just common with high performers. They're gonna work hard and then they'll play hard for sure as well. Because I think this is something I've been thinking a lot about is kind of the difference between really good athletes, winners and losers. I think people across, no matter what, like you're going to deal with hardship in your life, no matter who you are, what country you're from, you're going to deal with adversity and hardship. And I think what a lot of athletes do is they take that trauma, they take that hardship, and instead of letting it break them and tear them down, they just use it as fuel to accomplish what they're going to go try and do. And then maybe when that's done or when that's over, it's like that stuff might still be there if you're not, able to deal with it. And that's honestly another reason I think I got kind of jumped levels when I was in college is I addressed a lot of those things that, like, why was I partying this much and why was I drinking like this and what was the reason, right? And it was I was running from kind of something. And so addressing that head on and like dealing with those emotions made me a better wrestler, honestly just better human, which I
Mhm.
think if you're a better human, you're probably just going to be a better wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking, I think also in order to be a top high level athlete as good as you can be, recovery is a big deal. And also, I think you're starting to talk about it now with your social media. It's like figuring out who you are other than you are the athlete. Like when you need to take a break from the sport, especially wrestling, like what do you do? What did you do to just I'm just so focused on school. I just need a frickin' break right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, figuring out who you are outside this thing that you've done for so long. Um, I go back to, and I would tell anyone, it's like go back to probably when you were young and like you're a kid. Like, what did you like to do? What were you naturally drawn to? What were the things that piqued your interest, piqued your attention? And there's probably something in there that like if you go back and you maybe start to do those things, but like I used to skateboard when I was younger, so it's like go pick up a skateboard or go do something to like light up that child in you.
Yeah.
And also it's like a car analogy. You can't have your car going 100 miles an hour the whole way there, right? And so if you're doing that to your body or your mind and you're constantly thinking about wrestling, like I was telling you, when I was in high school, I would go to practice and then I would watch flow wrestling till I would go to sleep. When I got to college, I actually stopped watching wrestling. Like I did not go on flow wrestling. I didn't watch any films. I barely watched like I didn't watch any wrestling, right? So taking like when I'm not in the padded room, I don't need to think about wrestling. I don't even need to have it on my mind. And then that way I'm refreshed the next day and I can go and compete and I can go wrestle at a high level. So kind of taking a step back from it when you don't need to.
Yeah. So what did you do to take a step back from it? Did you skateboard? Is that or what? Yeah, what were you doing?
I think hang out with teammates, my fiance, um, read. I think getting outside in nature, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, Getting quiet too. But and to be honest though, like when I look back on it, man, I was so freaking busy all the time, and I think a lot of D1 guys can relate to that. It's like, dude, you wake up, you're going to lift, and then from lift, you're going to however many classes you have that day. And if you're committed, maybe you're going to hit the training room, going to do some rehab. Then at some point you got to eat, right? And then you have practice. You might have study hall hours. Maybe you got to go to the training room again. So it is a full-time job. And so it's like when you ask that, I'm like trying to think like I'll just probably chill out, and like
Yeah.
do my
Yeah. Hey.
stuff and relax. Just get your mind off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you're saying, I mean, there's really not many hours available to you in the day.
Because pretty much everything I did, especially when I was at West Virginia, almost it feels like everything that I did was in a pursuit to somehow give me
Mhm.
a 1% edge, half a percent, like anything. And I think once you get to that level, it's like any type of little edge you can do, whether it's your diet, supplements, workouts. Like I invested a lot into myself outside of what they had for us here as far as like resources, whether it's a sports psych, food people, um, rehab specialist. Like I invested quite a bit into myself um to just make me just increase the odds as much as possible that I could win.
When you finally, graduated and you're done wrestling, um, did you is part of the reason why you're telling the story about or urging athletes to be, figure out what they like to do besides wrestling or besides being an athlete? Is that because you went through that where you didn't know who you were besides a wrestler?
Yeah, I still struggle with it.
Really?
I still struggle with it. Yeah, I mean, I've done this sport since I was, 4 or 5, and I'm gonna be 27 this weekend. So that's a long time to be doing one thing and get
Right.
really good at something. And I think really what I encourage people to do is think for themselves. It's think for themselves, right? It's like, am I doing what I'm doing right now because it's what I want to do, or is it because my mom or my dad wants me to do that, right? Or a coach or some kind of influence, my friends, right? Conformity, right? Your social circle, right? My friends want me to do this. And um learning how to become your own person, deprogram that stuff like I was kind of talking about earlier, because I kind of had some revelations in college where it's like, dude, I don't want to wake up when I'm 40 and realize that I'm doing this thing and it's not who I am and what I want to do. Um And so yeah, I just encourage guys to and if they do want to keep wrestling and that's what they want to do, it's like freaking do that. But you only get one life. Like you only get one life, and especially when you're young, you have your health for so long to where I just think a lot of times we focus on the wrong things, whether it be money or whether it be like a certain relationship. So it's just like I encourage guys to think for themselves and really what they want. And it's sparked up recently because I talk to a lot of college age kids now that are maybe not in wrestling, just through like my job and like the recruiting I do. Um, and I see that a lot, 18 to 23-year olds that simply just can't make a decision because they have to go ask mom or dad. And I'm like, dude, you're 22, like, and if that's what they want to do, awesome. But I'm like, think for yourself, man,
Mhm.
question things. If you couldn't tell, I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yeah. And that's important to have your own opinions on stuff. your own opinion, what you think, not what other people think or not what you think is you should believe or think.
Yeah, I think it's important to like, get advice and mentorship and things
Yeah.
like that. But, you know, your gut is a very good indicator of what you should do. So follow your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, it never hurts to take in information. Like you said, your brain, your mind is a computer program and it's constantly taking in information but you need to have a little bit of filter and think for yourself of, yeah, I like that. That sounds good. Yeah. No, I don't like that. That doesn't sit well in my gut. Like, nah. So,
Hmm.
um, how did you end up at Old Dominion? I know we're kind of jumping all over the board here, but
Yeah, so knew I wanted to wrestle Division 1, and I was not a blue chip recruit coming out of high school. I placed at Fargo juniors once, made a blood round the next year. I made the semifinals of Super 32 one year. I think I might have already been committed to ODU at that point. So I wasn't, I think I made gotten to flow once, placed at Beast once. Like
did that
uh,
worry you then if you weren't a blue chip about going D1? Because you were like locked in. Like, did it
no,
ever
because I
waver?
was
Okay.
I was still like I knew that I was still good enough and like schools were going after
Okay.
me. They could see my work ethic. I was still, even by like my sophomore year, getting, things from Army, ODU, like all these schools. Nothing crazy, right? Not like a Iowa or a Penn State or Ohio State, anything like that. But so I knew I was gonna go D1, but I still didn't, I think, had the biggest belief in myself or anything like that. But I, took some visits, ODU, Gardner Webb. I think I checked out Mason a little bit, Army, some other schools, and it just
Yeah.
made the most sense as far as like the coaching staff being, pretty close to home, and um, I could went down there a couple times and worked out, and it just felt like it fit really well, and it did. The 3 years that I was there, some of the best years of my life. It was awesome.
Yeah. When did you hear that they were cutting the program?
Couple weeks after they canceled nationals, and like we were all just kind of during COVID, but a lot of us were just chilling at ODU. Like we didn't have class anymore. Or we had
Was,
online class, but no one was doing class.
was it even on your radar at that point? Like, I mean,
No, so that's what I was about to get into. I remember when they told us they had a Zoom call. They sent it in like maybe an hour before we were supposed to have it. They're like, "Hey, team, Zoom call," and a lot of us we were hanging out at my buddy Hilliard and Curling's house, but we were making jokes like, "Yo, what if they cut the program? What if they cut the team?" Like just kind of making jokes. We had no
right.
idea. We thought it was about COVID, and then we hop on, and there was the athletic director Selick, and then Steve Martin, a couple of the coaches there, and we could tell something was up just by their body language, and what I remember from the call is obviously being very pissed off, but not a ton of reason as to why. Like it didn't make sense. And, I still have a decent amount of disdain for that athletic department, right? Like bringing in a brand new, so that year, that fall, while we were still competing, they brought in a completely new volleyball program. They redid the gym. They did all of this. And, um, so we were, it's just kind of like a slap in the face of like, we were one of the better teams, I think, there, and as far as results goes and things like that. So we just didn't understand. But it ended up being kind of like a blessing in disguise, where,
Yeah.
I found a new home somewhere. So, but yeah, very very confused and just like out of nowhere for sure. And then we went to after we got that, we kind of broke into the wrestling room, and they had all the thing. I don't know if I've ever told anyone this, but they had like our equipment thing like locked, and we kind of just broke into it and took a bunch of gear. Just took a bunch of gear. Our coach was pissed, but I still have so much gear that I just kind of snagged,
Mm-hmm.
as like a little like, dude, this is ours. We're taking it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that had to be just a whirlwind of like, also what's next? Like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Because I mean, did you have to almost recruit your not recruit yourself, but kind of like make your own phone calls, and or did people reach out to you and say, "Hey, do you want to come?"
So it's spooky timing, right? Because if that had happened the year before when I was up at 133 and like kind of getting my ass kicked and like
Mhm.
not doing well, I don't know what would have happened. I would have went somewhere, but I mean that year I was the 15th seed at the national tournament. I was took second at the MAC. I was 25-9, like ranked decently that year. So yeah, I was getting recruited like and it was between West Virginia, UNC, Oklahoma, looking at Fresno. Those were kind of like the main four that I was looking at. And it was crazy timing too, because at that point, like usually if your program gets cut, it's like, okay, you can go visit a school physically.
Yeah,
That was
true.
that was during COVID. So I couldn't go visit any schools, right?
Right.
And the height of COVID. So I was doing like Zoom visits where the coaches were like walking me through the facilities. And but in high school, I actually visited Edinburgh. So I'd met Flynn, I met Cliff, I met Port. Like I really just liked who they were.
Hmm.
And scholarship wise, it made sense. Credit wise, it made sense. Similar distance being home made sense. So I kind of just sent it and that's how I ended up here. Yeah.
Gosh, good thing you didn't go to Fresno. Like that
Dude,
would've been-
one of my teammates at ODU went to Fresno. It was,
no way.
yeah, it was heartbreaking. Felt horrible
Yeah.
for him.
Jeez. Yeah, that would have been. Oof. But anyway, you ended up at West Virginia. So, yeah, great place. And credits transferred okay, because I'm sure that was also a big deal too. Like you don't want to start,
Yeah.
you did 3 years at ODU. You don't want to start, in another deficit.
hmm Most pretty much all my credits transferred. It might have been like one class that didn't
Ah.
transfer. So that was something I was like, all right, sweet.
And the program too. Like, I mean, at that point, were you still set on speech pathology, or were you starting to think about?
Yep. So that was kind of a factor too. They had like a program here. So that made sense as well. And so where I was at that time, it just made a ton of sense.
Geez, yeah, I guess so. It sounds like it almost fit like a glove.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Um, yeah. What was it like, finding that new home in West Virginia, but also it was still COVID. Like, how long did it take you to get comfortable at West Virginia while all that was going on? Like you said earlier, you were meeting some of the team, but not all the team. I mean, it was just,
Yeah. I honestly would want to say was I'm a very gritty, resilient guy. So like no matter
yeah.
what, I was gonna figure it out. But yeah, it took a while. And I mean, you know, um, we kind of talked about this after quite a while. Um, my the first couple matches I had here, like I did not perform well.
Uh-oh.
Hang on, let me just send a quick message here.
Gosh.
Someone's trying to call me. Um, and so where was I? Yeah, yeah. So the first couple matches I wrestled here, like I did not perform well. Like I remember, it's funny, we joked about it at the end of the year, but the kid that I lost to from Oklahoma at Big 12s, his record was 1-10.
No way, really?
And yeah, so I was the only, I think I was his only Division 1 win ever. Like he was an NAIA guy that transferred to Oklahoma, and he beat me in the Coliseum here. And so that was his only Division 1 win, I think, ever. And and I think I lost to someone else from Kent State, Jake Ferry, I believe was his name. And then Sam Latona beat me as well. And that was over the span of like a weekend or two.
Wow.
And so like, people were telling Flynn, like, what the hell? Where'd you find this guy? Like, what the hell? He
I bet,
sucks.
yeah.
But even before that, like the preseason, it was like I had moved into an apartment by myself. I didn't have any roommates during COVID. All the classes were online. So it definitely felt like pretty isolated. Um, but the coaches here are awesome. And so, they did a lot, I think, to help me through that. And I was working out with Cliff Morton and Port and all the guys here. And then kind of hurt my shoulder. And then that's kind of what I was dealing with at the beginning of that season. And then So I'd say like right around January is when I kind of started to figure it out. And there was this trip we took out to actually Air Force. We wrestled Wyoming, then we drove to Air Force, and I think wrestled you guys in Northern Colorado. And
Mm-hmm.
I won all my matches that weekend, and that's when I started to like I cut my long hair. I had really long hair then too. Um, and I'd wrestled my we wrestled Fresno. Actually, we wrestled Fresno and Air Force because I wrestled my former teammate, and I'd won all my matches that
Really?
weekend. Yep, and I'd won all my matches that weekend, and things started to flow and click, and then it kind of just took off from there.
How was that wrestling your former teammate? I mean,
So we wrestled off twice the year before, and so very familiar. But
yeah.
he got up on me, I think, in the beginning of the match, and I came back and beat him. And then we wrestled again at Big 12s. Um and beat him there as well. But he was a stud. Anthony Moulton's a stud for sure. But yeah, after that weekend, I think it kind of started to yeah, just I really worked on my mindset, dealing with my shoulder injury a ton, and just started to pick up.
Yeah. Um, you ended your career as a two-time All-American. I mean, there's some bittersweetness to that, maybe. I mean, maybe you didn't achieve your ultimate goal, but I mean, can you appreciate the accomplishments and the effort and the work that it took to even get to that spot?
So I'll come in and sometimes I'll talk to the team here. And I think a lot of guys, when they're finished with their careers, whether they, get what they want to or not, I think a lot of them have a hard time looking in the mirror and saying, I did everything that I could and I there was nothing else that I could have done. Because I think a lot of guys maybe try to say that when they're here, but it's not, they know that they left some stuff on the table. And for me, I can look back on my career and I've reframed this a ton, right? Obviously, I wanted to be a national champion, but really, when I look back at the 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, like he wanted to be one of the best wrestlers in the country. He wanted to be on that national stage, get on that podium on ESPN. Like, I remember saying, like, I want to wrestle on Saturday, right? Whether that's on the big stage or whether that's, in the All American rounds. Like, I was like, I want to wrestle that third day. And so I can look back on my career and say, with all the knowledge I had at the time, like I can sleep well at night. And I know I did everything that I possibly could to yeah, just be the best wrestler I could be. So yeah, I look back on my career with absolutely just zero regrets. And so I think that's what you want when you finish up your wrestling career, hopefully.
Yeah. And when you when I see our guys in there, or just in general, I look over the landscape of college wrestling and you hear some people talking or they tweak something, the first like you are the example in my mind of just like warrior. Like nothing is gonna stop you. Like you said, they gotta take you off on a stretcher, you know. Um, so anyway, a couple things here before I let you go. I remember when your senior year, when you were having the issues with your feet and your ACL, like everything just seemed like it was going wrong. There was kind of a lot of talk about you even like being allowed to wrestle in the NCAA tournament, if I'm right, because of
Oh
how few
yeah.
matches you wrestled. Did you pay any attention to that? Did you hear any about that? Like you were kind of like a little bit of a lightning rod of like this guy has not like he hasn't wrestled at all, and he's
Yeah. So for some context, right? Like my toes hurt. I took about 6 weeks off to try and heal them. Um, 6 weeks did literally nothing. It felt like my toes were the exact same. And then I come back. It was either 1 or 3 days into me coming back. I'm wrestling with Jordan Titus, and we just get in a position where he has my leg up, I have his leg up, and he puts his, foot where my foot on the mat is, and my body goes this way, my knee goes that way, and I just hear it freaking rip and pop.
uh,
And I'm
Titus is
crawl.
tough. Titus is
Yeah, yeah. Especially, he's a little bit bigger than me too. But Jordan, if you're watching this, you know who Daddy is. Um, But and so I'm navy like seal crawling off the mat, and then I go into like where our little weight room is, and I'm just like I just start crying, like just start bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I knew at that point like something good did not just happen. Um, and that's when Flynn was very calm. He was all good, and so I rehabbed that back all the way up till I think Midlands, and then that was my first competition back. And then I end up wrestling a bunch through that to like February, and I'm like 10-0 on the season. Wrestling with my stress fractures, my torn ACL, all those other little injuries that you get, right? Um, and then I'm wrestling. We're about to wrestle. It's so funny too. We're about to wrestle Air Force the
Holy shit.
next day in February. I'm wrestling Jordan again though, but this time it's like we're not touching, and I roll on all fours, and I just feel my left knee just fold inside on itself. And that's what I would describe it as. Like my knee just felt like it like inside, and I didn't know what happened. I was telling my trainer like it feels like it needs to pop back in place, and then I turned my meniscus. Um,
Unbelievable.
I turned my meniscus. I think obviously we got the MRI and all that stuff. It was a bucket handle tear, so it's like completely locked in. And this was another thing where I was questioning: do I repair it or do I just get it scoped out, try to wrestle? I'm gonna have arthritis at some point if I just take it out. And so I was debating that. And then I was like, Hamer, right? Let's do it. Let's try to wrestle. So they scoped my knee out 27 days before nationals. So I couldn't wrestle at Big 12s, obviously. Like that would have been really hard. Um, and I think I was the number one seed. I'm pretty sure I was the number one seed, returning Big 12 champ, undefeated on the season. So I was number one seed, but I go out and they just do like the hand race thing, and I got into a little Twitter beef with Willie Saylor. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
Cardinale should absolutely get hammered in the seeds. And,
Yeah.
I sent a little South Park funny meme. It kind of blew up on Twitter a little bit. And they did. They absolutely hammered me in the seeds. And, like, I didn't wrestle at Big 12. So, but I didn't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. It was outside of my control, and I had to get a wild card. So I was like, you know, hoping I get one. And then, yeah, they gave me the 28th seed. Um, and then I think I got on the mat like 5 days before the tournament and started drilling again. And, up until that point, just doing what I could to prepare for the tournament, just as best as I could.
Yeah, I was gonna say at that point, did it even matter what seed you were? At that point, you were just like, just give me a shot. I don't care where I'm
Yeah.
at. Put me in a pigtail for all I care. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. And it ended up just like, working out the way it was supposed to. I couldn't control it, but and I did not have any easy like draws. I had to wrestle Caleb Smith first round, and then I think I had to wrestle Jory Volk, and then Matt Ramos, and then Brett Unger. So it was like I didn't have a easy road either.
yeah,
Now I think both Caleb Smith and Jory are all Americans, so it was loaded.
yeah. Caleb, two-time All-American. I think
Hmm.
Volk is one. You said Matt Ramos,
Yeah, I wrestled
yeah,
Ramos.
national finalist. I mean,
He beat me in the quarters, and then I was in the blood round and wrestled Brett Unger from Cornell. Hmm.
dang. What do you think when you like when you talk about it, when you think about it, and you're like, man, that happened. That was my life.
Yeah, it was such an emotional like roller coaster, and I had like when I look back on it too, it's like my fiance was awesome through that time, and my coaches, my family, and um, it's just such a testament to like my character, and I'll bring that with me the rest of my life. But yeah, and I remember too, like for any wrestlers that are watching, it's like I remember even in, you know, February that year, January, like taking little moments to just be like cutting weight, feeling like crap, but sitting there going, I'm gonna miss this one day. Like this right here, I'm gonna miss this. Like being in the locker room with the boys, like I'm gonna miss this. You get such a small time of your life to compete at this level, right? And I always viewed myself too I think this is like a mindset thing that helped me a lot. I always viewed myself as a professional athlete once I got to college, right? And you could ask Flynn. He says it all the time. I was one of the most professional guys that he's ever coached and worked with because I viewed myself. I was not an amateur wrestler. Like this is the highest level of folk style wrestling. If
Hmm.
you're in the NCAA, especially Division One, like you are a professional athlete, and you should treat yourself like a professional athlete. Um, and but so yeah, like just taking in all those moments of like standing on the podium, like doing the parade of champions, like just take it all in because you get such a short time to do this. So you got to just suck out the bone marrow of this experience that you can because it's quick. It goes very quickly.
Yeah, true that. Um, Very well said. The last thing I wanted to ask you about here before I let you go was your fiance. You know, been with her, what'd you say, 6 years? Um, Kind of just if you could give me a quick version of that story. How'd you guys meet and I mean, how did you end up where you are today with her? I mean, obviously a
Yeah.
big part of your life.
So I'll give you the real raw version of how we met. So my it's kind of one of those things where looking back on it, it's almost kind of like a bit of a movie, I guess. But my roommate matched with someone on Tinder, shocker, shocker, in college, right? And he was like, "Hey, this girl and her roommates are gonna come over," and I was just doing like homework on my computer at that time. Um, and so they came over and like they were just hanging out in the living room, whatever. And so there was three girls, right? The guy my buddy matched with on Tinder, and then two of their roommates. Now, if I'm being frank, the other two girls, they were very loud, and I was just annoyed. Like I was like, I don't know if I would do you guys. But
Yeah.
then there was this girl sitting in the corner of the couch, just like very quiet, pretty cute, like had a very cute laugh. Like I was making
Mhm.
her laugh, right? And so I was like, there's just something there. And at this point in time, I used to have a pet rat. Um, and I was like, you guys want to see a cool pet? And like they were kind of like, oh, is it a snake? Is it a cat? Blah blah. And I just bring out this rat and like just let it kind of hang out. And then, long story short, we talk a little bit, but I was a little bit of a, I guess, a little bit of a chicken then. And then I slid in. I found her on Instagram. I slid in the
Yeah.
DMs, and we just kind of became friends. And then she went home for the summertime, and we just communicated like through the entire summer. And then when she got back to school, um, I kind of just assumed the sale, and she became my girlfriend. And especially during that time, that was like a very destructive time in my life that summer going into that year at ODU. And so she was someone that stuck by me through like my probably one of my lowest moments. But yeah, that's kind of how we met. And yeah, it was 6 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. And she went to Old Dominion?
Yep, so she went to ODU, and then when I
Okay.
came here, we did the long distance thing, and now she lives up here. So
Nice. All right. So she finished out her her tenure at ODU.
that's right. Yep.
Okay. Did when you were looking at transferring when all that happened, like I mean, what did she think of it all?
Yeah, obviously she was upset and
I mean, yeah.
not happy about it, but and that's why I love her so much. And like she could have been like, oh, I want you to stay, and I don't want you to leave. And
Mhm.
obviously she didn't want me to leave, right? But she knew I had goals and dreams, and so like having someone that is willing to sacrifice that and support you through that is huge. I think it's really rare, right? A lot of times we think about ourselves and are very selfish. She's
Mhm.
one of the most selfless people that I've ever met in my life.
Wow. Yeah. What a rock for you too, you know? Sounds like.
Hmm. That's
Um,
right.
and what does she do?
So she got her degree in cybersecurity, but she works in IT right
Okay.
now. So she'd be working with the technology, all the computer stuff, a little outside my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what do you do nowadays? So do you live in Morgantown still?
Yeah, so I live in Morgantown. It's funny. I'll live in Morgantown for like 7 or 8 months out of the year, but it's more like 6, 7. I didn't want
Mhm.
to say that again though. And then so I've been doing sales since getting out of school. I do door-to-door sales, and been doing that for so I work primarily during the summertime. I'll work 4 or 5 months in one of the markets that this company I partner with tells us to go to, and then the rest of the year I'm building a sales team right now. It's all about, finding good guys, training them, getting them ready to come out and sell. And a lot of people are probably like, pest control, that sounds so weird, not very sexy. It's a very lucrative business, but really it's a personal development thing. Like, that's how I view the job. It's personal development disguised as kind of a money making machine. It's one of the second hardest things that I've done outside of wrestling. um and no matter, what career field that you go into, I think, whether it's with me or someone else, like, people should do some type of cold calling sales, right? Just the confidence that it gives you, the being able to meet someone and within a very short amount of time build a relationship, build trust, um, and demonstrate the value that you have, learn how to talk to a very wide range of people. I think this summer I talked to over 6,000 people.
Oh,
um, and so you get really good at talking to a lot of different people with different backgrounds, different cultures. And if you get good at it, you could start to manage and learn leadership. And so obviously I want to be an entrepreneur and start a company someday. And so when I was in business school, I saw a lot of entrepreneurs, whether it's Mark Cuban or the guy that founded Starbucks, or um, you know whoever. They all said that, like, they either started in door-to-door sales or some type of direct sales. And so I've been doing this for a while, and I'll do it until it doesn't make sense.
mhm.
But yeah, it's been fun.
Nice. Yeah. Sounds like you're having a good time with it too. And that is an interesting point that you said of meeting somebody, building trust and having confidence and being able to talk to them. I mean, you're doing it in 5 minutes, 5, 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah, and I mean,
That's quick. That's hard to do.
it is. And especially, like, I relate it a lot to, I think, a lot of wrestlers can be really good at it because it's a very similar mindset to where, and that's another thing. Being a wrestler, I don't want I don't want to be compensated for me just showing up. I want to be compensated for the results that I bring in, right?
Mhm.
And that's sales, right? Just like wrestling, the work that you put in is going to correlate to what you get out of it. And so
Yep.
I really found that attractive, not having an income cap. But really, the reason I got started in it was for the skill set. And then this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, think for yourself, question things. Like, I think a lot of times guys, when they get out of school, right, you know, maybe they think they need to go get a safe and secure job, right? Whether that be a job with benefits, hourly pay, a salary. And I'm the devil's advocate with that when I'm talking to guys. I'm like, you could place me in almost any neighborhood in the entire country. I could go knock on a door, meet someone, and create revenue for someone out of thin air like that, either for myself or for an organization. And to me, that feels way more safe and secure because it's always me and I'm in control of that. Where if
Yeah.
the company I work for, goes out of business or whatever it might be, I have those skills and I can go apply those wherever. Because that's what I think no one can take away from you is your experience and the skills that you have.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Wrestlers of Business Network?
Yeah, that's funny. I've talked with Scotty a couple times in the
Okay.
past couple months, just like connecting with him a little bit.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds I don't know, it sounds like you like that's a perfect match for you is something like that because that's kind of what their mantra is, I feel a little bit to an extent,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I've been building my brand a little bit more on social media, is
Mhm.
just give back to wrestling, but also um find the people that are looking for something like this, and um yeah, just find the people that are looking for something like that, like-minded people like myself, right? Because that's who I want to work with, right? Or like-minded people like myself, guys that want to work hard, have big goals, not afraid to get in the trenches a little bit. Um, and so yeah, it's been fun too, like trying to learn a new skill like social media.
Yeah. Hey, and you have a wife who's good with tech. So, or, sorry, a fiance who's good with
Yeah,
tech. So there you go.
absolutely.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, Killian Cardinale, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to the podcast, and check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget, you can check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.